We're nearing the end of our journey down the west coast of Australia, but there's still time for a visit to one of the Great Southern's best kept secrets, West Cape Howe Wines. The Great Southern Wine Region is Australia's largest wine-growing district. Spanning several hundred kilometres, the area is rich in natural variations and divergence, but it's most known for cool climate wines. Started in 1977 by 4 West Australian families, West Cape Howe has since become a mainstay in the industry. First up, I'm meeting Gavin, who's been the winemaker here since 2004. Gavin, thank you so much for having me here at West Cape Howe Wines.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming for a visit on such a dark and gloomy day.
It's quite a moody atmosphere here. Is this typical of some of the weather you get?
It is pretty typical. We're right on the south coast of WA and we tend to cop whatever's floating around on this sort of southwestern corner. So some days are brilliant and we enjoy them, and some days are a little bit like this.
What does that do for the wine growing?
Well, it does put this sort of nervousness into our climate. So it's not just sun shines every day. So you do sort of have slight disease issues, but at the end of the day, you have these sort of cool breezes that come off the south coast, and they are really important to our wine grapes and the flavours that we get on the south coast. So.
And you're the senior winemaker and managing director, and a few other hats I think you have in this operation. How long have you been working here?
Well, we're a classic small business where you tend to do whatever you need to do to get through the day that's in front of you. So I've been in the region since the end of 1988, so that must be 30-something years ago. So I conned my wife into coming down here for a 2-year stint and started a job at Plantagenet Wines in town in Mount Barker. And we've just grown to love it. It wasn't sort of what we were planning on day one, but wine is our life, so we love making wines of a particular style, and this region does a very good job of that. I think it's a special region. So.
I think so too. Why wine? What got you passionate about it and what keeps you going?
Oh, that's a nasty question. A lot of people avoid responsibility by either going to Perth or Darwin. So I'm originally from northern New South Wales. I'm armed with a psychology degree. My father's a stock and station agent. He doesn't want to know anything about psychology. He wonders why I studied it. So when I eventually finished uni, he thought I should get a proper job. So I'm like going, I don't want a proper job. And then I thought, Perth, that's a pretty neat spot. So I came to Perth to try and avoid getting a proper job. And I needed money, so I ended up driving a tractor out in the Swan Valley, just on a vineyard. So originally from a farming background, and I just wanted to get back into farming in some description, but I wasn't going to be a wheat farmer. That was really the start of it. I went and studied at Roseworthy and came back to WA, and I have never lost interest or passion in the whole thing, the whole process.
Yes, because taking on a vineyard is not just farming, but you've also got the winemaking as well. So that's a bit of a bigger job than just straight farming.
Yeah, I think the bit that's really appealing for me is that I like the vineyard bit, and there's challenges out there every year, and those challenges change whether the sun shines or doesn't shine or it rains too much. Also, what happens in the winery is the cook. That's where you learn to put flavours together and try and understand what you're trying to achieve as a finished goal and what things you can do to make that happen. And the last bit is I actually enjoy people, and you get the opportunity to go and talk to people. Like, you pretend it's a job, but you go and talk to people about wine. Now that's not really a job. So you put those 3 things together, and it's just what we do. So.
And you mentioned your wife, and she involved with the business as well. Is it a bit of a family affair?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I met Jill at Roseworthy College when we were studying wine, and there was only one person with redder cheeks than me, and that was Jill. And I'm like going, wow, she's a neat girl. She was so desperate to move out of college, she moved in with 3 guys, And well, that's probably the end of that story. But, so
she's involved in the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So Jill does everything in the business that needs to happen that requires detail and people that can spell and write. So that counts me out. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And Mount Barker, the region, what makes it so great for growing?
Took me a while to sort of put it together. So the French talk about a term called terroir, and it's about the local environment and how it impacts on their regional place to give you flavours of their wine, and that's their way of protecting their little spot. And I have worked over there a couple of times, and I never really understood it, and I thought it was a bit of a pass-off. But our environment and our South Coast influence is really important to determining flavour. So if you can imagine, Denmark and Albany are right on the coast, which means it's cold. You know, the sea breeze does blow here mostly through spring and summer. So you can have warm days but quite cool nights. Mount Barker's half an hour further off the coast, so the sea breeze has sort of slowed down a little bit. It arrives here a bit later. We have all these nuances of our region that allow us to sort of have different flavour inputs, and it is quite a unique place to grow grapes, and we have a crack at growing everything, you know, so we don't just do Riesling or we don't just do Sauvignon Blanc. I think we do a pretty good job of a whole range of varieties. So
Lovely, that's great to have all those varieties right here in one place.
Absolutely, and it's the challenge of the winery to try and put all of those things together. When people say, oh, well, how was your vintage? We start off with Riesling and we finish with Cabernet. In between all of that, there's a lot of fruit that goes through. So we can have a classic, brilliant start and gets a bit, you know, unwieldy towards the end, or the other way around. So it's very rare that you say, oh, it's a brilliant vintage for everything.
And you mentioned a little bit about your objectives, but what is your objectives for the final experience for people sipping your wine?
Our common ground is we actually believe in wine as a drink and wines that represent value. So we've always set out as a group to make sure that we've got wines that aren't super expensive, that drink really well, and also are reflective of the variety in the region. So we try and cover off all of those things. We know our wines aren't for everyone, but they are very much of our style and reflect what this place is.
So what can people expect when they have a glass of your wine?
Well, hopefully they can sort of connect to the variety that it is, whatever that variety is. We resonate on flavour, drinkability and value. You know, so we sort of try and tick off all of those things. Quite proudly, we try and make wines that are reflective of our region and in their style. So that probably covers what we set out to do. So.
This glass smells amazing. So what are we drinking here as well,
we're drinking Shiraz.
Okay, great.
So this is the variety that actually originally got me to come to this region.
Okay.
We were having a tasting up in the Swan Valley with a group of winemakers, and it's a funny looking thing. If you ever walked into a winemaker's tasting, all the wines are in brown paper bags. So it looks like a group of deros sitting around. Yeah, so it's not typical. Anyway, there was one wine that was an absolute standout, and it was the Plantagenet Shiraz. And I tasted this wine and I thought, wow, I really want to work in a region that can make wines like that. And then you sort of fast forward 12 months later and I was working at that place. And that was the variety that sort of stands out as being distinctly different to a lot of other regions in Australia. Typical Australian Shiraz, but probably leans a little bit towards European in style rather than South Australia. So.
Well, I think your plan of escaping to the West Coast has done you pretty well. It's a nice area, and I'm pretty sure this wine is going to be delicious. So, cheers. Plenty more wine after the break. See you soon. I'm at West Cape Howe Wines in the Great Southern, some 4 hours south of Perth. There's more than a few wines on offer here, so I'm heading inside to meet Jill. So Jill, I'm excited for you to share with me just a taste of some of the wines you have on offer. How many do you have in total?
About 30 wines we make here. This area does most varieties quite well, so I just thought we'll just show you just a few of the key wines that we think we like to focus on when visitors come. So
that'd be great. And as you are co-owner here, I'm sure you've got all the expertise on what to taste.
Fairly experienced. What do we say? We road test them frequently.
Oh.
So we always like to start people on the Riesling, because it's a variety that this area is highly regarded for, and not everyone's to everyone's taste, but we still say it's important to try it, at least you know what we're doing in this area.
Oh, already smells delicious.
You're in Riesling country now, so Riesling does very well in a cooler climate, which is you're having today. We make a really crisp, fine, delicate, zesty style of white wine. So,
It does smell great.
And if you've been down to our south coast, you know it's a spectacular coastline. So, a good wine with fresh seafood or something like that, good pairing.
Beautiful. All right, let's take a sip. Oh, that's lovely. It is delicate, but it's got that lovely zest in it.
Really citrusy, really limey, and that's the typical of this region, particularly
Very special. And so you said seafood would be good to pair with?
Absolutely. Because of its high acidity, it makes a very good wine as, you know, an aperitif or a little sushi platter or something like that. I also think it would go well with Thai food because often we get a nice sort of lemongrassy character, and I think it'd be a good pairing.
Definitely can taste that, and very easy to drink as well.
Well, delicious, isn't it?
It is. Maybe if people do have a hesitation about Riesling, this is a nice Riesling to have.
And, you know, it's going to be too acidic for some people, but it's also nice just to get the blinkers off some people if they say, oh no, Aunt Riesling's always too sweet. And you say, no, not here, they're not.
No.
So.
Okay, so what next?
Okay, well, I've got a few favourites, but Chardonnay's definitely up there for me. And again, when people sort of say, oh, don't drink Chardonnay anymore, or I'm going, well, it's a great variety down here, and we're trying to make what we'd call this as the more modern Australian style. So fully barrel fermented, but still lots of good fruit character.
Oh yeah, I can smell that.
We now make 3 styles of Chardonnay, so we have a slightly easier drinking style, you know, one to fit everyone's taste, we like to think so.
And with this particular style, what would you pair it with?
Probably a fuller flavoured meal. The Chardonnay's always got that weight in its palate weight and richness, so it can handle richer food. Also, because again, it's cool climate, it's got some good acidity, so it also handles some bottle age, so it only gets more interesting with a bit of age.
Oh, nice.
You know, you've got to appreciate not everyone's wanting to find a bottle of wine for dinner tonight. They might want to have some to keep for later, so
Yeah, so this is a
good for now and for later.
Oh,
yeah.
perfect. Oh, that's lovely, and I can taste those delicate notes of the barrel coming through. Oh, it's really yummy. That is definitely, if people feel like they're not Chardonnay drinkers, I would highly recommend this.
Sauvignon Blanc's hugely popular, but I think that's much more of a summertime wine. And on a night like tonight, you think, oh no, I don't know if I feel like Sauvignon Blanc. Something like a Chardonnay, it's fresh enough, but it's got that extra richness, and it's a more generous wine for a cooler evening.
Definitely, it's a lovely round, full mouthfeel too. Might be a new favourite for me.
It's a beautiful spot to spend the day, so I'm getting a little tour around the property.
So how long have you had the cellar door here?
So we bought the old Goundry Winery and Vineyard about 10 years ago. We did a few changes, and part of those changes were to set up a cellar door that's reflective of West Cape Howe. My glutton for punishment is that I love an open fire, and the idea of sitting on a couch, glass of red and a cheese board is very appealing to me, and we've noticed very appealing to our customers that come in here as well. So, we've been here for 10 years. And
Nice. Yeah, I love how you've decorated it. You've got some of the old vines in here.
it's we want to stay connected to the vineyard and to our place, so that's quite important to us.
And you can also have a peek behind the scenes of these big windows.
So that's the winery. That's where part of the whole process happens. So it's actually quite entertaining during vintage when there's this sort of chaos happening out there, and barrels are overflowing and there's people moving everywhere. At this time of year, it's more of a maturation area where the wines are stored in barrel and they're left there for a period of time. But during vintage, it's much more entertaining, much more fun.
So the customers can come in here, have a wine, and just have a peek at what's going on behind the scenes.
And I do know that the people out there love that.
I bet. Love being on show.
Love being on show. So the next part of our small stroll around here is down into what's known as Jack's Cellar. So Jack Bendat originally owned this place, and he put this wonderful cellar downstairs for storing our museum wines. So If there's one place that I would like to get locked in, is down here. So let's see.
Not many people say they want to get locked in a cellar, but I really appreciate that. Your passion.
Not many people have this cellar.
Yeah, that's true.
So now we're going down here into the cellar, which sort of reminds me a lot of some of the great old cellars in France, and it's this lovely temperature controlled underneath this slab. It's got that nice little echo noise that happens down here, and when that table's full of people having a tasting, it really is quite noisy.
It feels like it's something, magic happens down here. It's that vibe.
Well, after you've had a couple of those bottles, there's a lot of magic happening. And I've just always enjoyed the idea that you can store your museum wines in a temperature-controlled place, and we should venture off behind that door because that's where the main library is.
Okay.
So this is where bad people get locked in.
With good wine, so I don't think it's that much of a punishment.
So down here,
Wow.
we just have a collection of all of the vintages that we've made over the years. The long story is that we do a fundraising for motor neuron disease, and we auction off a stay at the homestead. This cellar wasn't in such good nick, and some people came down to help catalogue it all and set it up. So these people are really organised, so they've come through, they've opened up all of our boxes, catalogued the whole place. Then we noticed that they actually quite liked certain vintages as they were going, and so day one they achieved so much. They catalogued the whole thing. Day two, not so productive. Yeah, day three they went home.
Okay.
So anyway,
Wow.
it's so we've taken it now that we must maintain their system so that each vintage is here. And on a hot summer's day, I think it's quite amazing how cool it is down here. The humidity levels are quite high, and it's an even temperature all year round. So it's a gorgeous spot.
It's a great place for the wines to rest until
Absolutely.
their day comes.
Wine is so much about individual tastes and flavours, so what I love and what you may like, it can be very, very different. I do notice that 2006 Styx Gully Chardonnay was a wine that did particularly well at a San Francisco wine show. We just had so much of it here, we didn't sell it, and we held on to it, and then it became our favourite staff drink. and we released it at Cellar Door as a museum wine. So we just like this. This is a way that we can show people what it is to mature wines, and we've got a rack upstairs where some of the wines get sold. But it's more just to sort of showcase what museum wines taste like. So.
Yeah. Back with Jill, I'm learning what makes the red wine from this region unique.
Now I've just chosen a couple of reds. Shiraz and Cabernet are pretty classic varieties and do well, lots of places in Australia. It doesn't make us unique, but we do quite like Shiraz from the cooler climate here that has slightly more peppery notes, and Shiraz has a lovely generosity to it, so it's a really good, approachable wine. But again, because of that cooler climate, it's also got good longevity, so it's not just a drink now wine. You could keep this for a year or two as well.
Yeah, so in that way it could be a perfect gift if you wanted to give it to someone.
Absolutely. And I think at the moment we make 3 different Shirazes just at 3 different price points. So we also like to think that, if you do want something just to drink tonight, it doesn't have to be anything too expensive. We've got a wine that will fit that category. If you want something that's going to improve with 6 or 8 years in the cellar, we have something like that as well. So
a good one to add to your collection.
spicy red berry fruits.
Oh, that's really interesting. I can definitely taste those upper notes of the pepper, but it's still lovely and rich.
A nice, generous on the nose, but still quite tight on the palate. I mean, it's got that, it's got a bit of structure still, so.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to finish off with the Bookends Cabernet Sauvignon. This is the black label wines are from our best parcels of fruit. So it gets the most love, the best oak, that sort of thing. And again, because we have Cabernets at a couple of different price points. So this is the best parcel gets kept for Bookends, has a bit longer in barrel or longer in bottle before release. So this is the 2018.
Okay. interesting. So what are some of the flavours that I might
Oh, Cabernet typically has just really strong sort of black currant, dark berry fruits.
Yep.
And then with a bit of bottle age, you get a bit of complexity, so they really well integrated. But the idea is the fruit's the dominant character.
It smells very sophisticated. Yeah, those fruit notes are delightful. Really nice.
I think with this area, there's get very good fruit flavour, so the idea is the wines are very approachable as young wines, but they've also got the structure to handle a bit of time in the cellar. So,
yeah.
But the Cabernet here, we'd comfortably recommend, 6 to 10 years bottle age if you happen to like a mature wine. The range is very large here, but it's just that every variety seems to do pretty well, so it's hard to know what to. It can be a bit daunting, so I guess we just target. You say, well, are you interested in the light dry whites, full of flavoured reds, or would you like us to pick, a snapshot of wines?
So when people come here for the cellar door experience, they can really have a tailored experience and also probably discover something new too.
Oh, absolutely. I sort of like it when someone goes, no, I don't like Chardonnay, and I go, here, just humour me. Just
a little taste.
Yep. Just try this, and if you don't like it, you don't have to finish it, but it's just quite nice to, expose people to something they haven't tried before.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they can see exactly where it's made.
Oh, absolutely. You can see the viewing room. Quite often there's someone working as they're trying the wines, and it's very legitimate.
It's a really nice connection to, see that it happens here and you're drinking that end result.
And during vintage, you come into the wine here and you can smell the fermenting wine. It's just gorgeous. Yeah.
An experience.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jill, for taking me through, and thanks for having me.
Been a pleasure.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, I've had a wonderful day here at West Cape Howe Wines, and now I have one of the best seats in house with some delicious cheese and, of course, delicious wines.
Cheers.